Okay, hello, hi, and thank you for continue with our chapter number 5. Okay, this is a part 3 in chapter 5. Okay, we are looking now cost analysis, which is cover type of cost in terms of short run and long run. Okay, as you can see from the slide now, that's short runs. You have to calculate fixed cost, sunk cost, short run variable cost, and then short run total cost. And for the long run, all costs are variable, no fixed cost. Okay, so for given input prices, different isoquant will entail different production costs, even allowing for optimal substitution between capital and labor. So each isoquant corresponds to a different level of output, and isocost line tangent to higher cost will imply higher cost of production, even assuming the firm uses the cost minimizing input mix. Since the cost of production increases as higher isoquant are reached, it is useful to let CQ denote the cost. CQ denote the cost to the firm of producing isoquant Q in the cost minimizing fashion. Yeah. So the function C is called the cost function. So the cost function is extremely valuable because, as we will see in the later chapter, it provides essential information a manager needs to determine the profit maximizing level of output. And in addition, the cost function summarizes information about the production process. So the cost function does reduces the amount of information the manager has to process to make optimal output decision. Okay. So recall that the short run is defined as a period over which the amount of some input are fixed. In the short run, the manager is free to alter the use of variable input but is stuck with existing level of fixed input because input are costly whether fixed or variable. So the total cost of producing output in the short run consists the cost of fixed inputs, cost of variable inputs. Okay. So these two components of short run total cost are called a fixed cost and variable cost, FC and VC. Let's say we can see from this figure. I share this figure table by 3. Alright, that's table 5.3 illustrates the cost of producing with technology. Okay. Notice that the first three columns comprise a short run production function because they summarizes the maximum amount of output that can be produced with 2 units of fixed factor or capital, and alternative unit of the variable factor where you can see labor. Assuming capital cost of 1000 units and labor cost 400 per unit, we can calculate the fixed and variable cost of production, which are summarized in column 4 and 5 of table 5.3. So notice that irrespective of the amount of output produced, the cost of the capital equipment is 1000 times 2 equal to 2000. Thus, every entry in column 4 contains this number, illustrating the principle that fixed costs do not vary with output. And to produce more output, more of the variable factor must be employed. For example, to produce 1100 unit of output, 5 units of labor are needed. To produce 1708 units of output, 7 units of labor are required. So since labor is the only variable input in this simple example, the variable cost of producing 1100 units of output is the cost of 5 units of labor. That means 400 times 5 equal to 2000 ringgit, $2000. So similarly, the variable cost of producing 1708 unit of output is 400. Okay. Times 7, that means equal to $2,800. So total cost summarized in the last column of file 3 are simply the sum of fixed costs, column 4, and variable costs, column 5, at each level of output. Okay. For this graph, okay, illustrate graphically the relation among total cost, variable cost, TC, BC, and fixed cost, FC. So because fixed costs do not change with output, okay, because of the fixed cost do not change its output, they are constant for all output levels and must be paid even if 0 unit of output are produced. Okay, so variable cost on the other hand are 0 if no output is produced, but increase as output increase above 0. So total cost is the sum of fixed cost and variable cost. Thus, the distance between the TC and VC curve in this graph is simply fixed cost, and then note that the curve look closer together as they get steeper. However, this is due to the fact that if with a fixed vertical differences in the curve, the horizontal difference will get smaller as the curve gets steeper, making them look closer in that dimension. Okay. So now we make an important distinction between fixed cost and sunk cost. Between fixed cost and sunk cost, right? So recall that fixed cost is a cost that does not change when output changes. A related concept called sunk cost is a cost that is a loss forever once it has been paid. To be concrete, imagine that you are the manager of a coal company and have just paid $10,000 to lease a rail car for 1 month. So this expense reflect to fixed cost to your firm. So the cost is $10,000 regardless of whether you whether you use the rail car to transport 10 tons or 10,000 ton of coal. So how much of this 10,000 is a sunk cost depend on the term of your lease. So if the lease does not permit you to recoup any of $10,000 once it has been paid, so the entire $10,000 is a sunk cost. You have already incurred the cost and there is nothing you can do to change it. If the lease state that you will refunded 6,000 in the event you do not need the rail car, then only 4,000 of the 10,000 is a fixed cost, is a sunk cost. So sunk costs are thus the amount of this fixed cost that cannot be recovered. Okay, so this is the concept that you can see from here. Okay, the sunk cost, a fixed cost, and the sunk cost. Okay? So So this is some definition of uh, average, total cost, average variable cost, denote as a ABC, average fixed cost, denote as a FC. Okay, that means, and then marginal cost, MC. Okay, okay, this is a fixed cost show in graphics. So graphically, we can see fixed cost as an area. That's we can see this color. Okay, colored area. Yeah, that means quantity, uh, Q0 times ATV minus AVC. Yeah, okay, that's how that we can get a fixed cost here. Then this is a variable cost. Yeah, area of colored area. Uh, you can see the variable cost. This area average variable cost times our quantity of production Q0. Yeah, this is our variable cost. And hence the total cost, average total cost times quantity of production. Okay, this is a cubic cost function. You also want to find maybe an example for us to understand of this. Okay, this is how that we can use. This is an example for cubic cost. Okay, let's say the total cost equal to is a C, cost of quantity times quantity equal to 10 plus quantity Q plus Q2. So variable cost function, and then variable cost of producing 2 units. Yeah, right. And then fixed cost, let's say 10. So marginal cost functions. Okay, MC time Q equal to 1 plus 2Q, and marginal cost of producing 2 units, okay, equal to 5. Okay, So in the long run, all costs are variable because the manager is free to adjust the level of all input. So as we discussed at the first at the early of this video, part 3 of this video, we can we still remember, right? That's all variable. Okay, all costs are variable because the manager is free to adjust the level of all input. Okay. Let's say we see from this figure. Okay, let me show this figure. So this figure 513, the short run average cost curve. We can see ATC0. ATC0 is drawn under the assumption that there are some fixed factor of production. There's some fixed factor of production. So the average total cost of producing output level Q0, okay, output level of Q0 given the fixed cost of production is ATC 0 times Q0. ATC 0 times Q0 from here to here. Okay, so in the short run, if a firm increases output to Q1, okay, so it can adjust the fixed cost, and thus average cost rise to ATC 0 times Q1. Okay, so in the long run, however, the firm can adjust the fixed factors. Let ATC 1 be the average cost curve. Let the ATC 1 be the average cost curve after firm adjust the fixed cost in the optimal manner. So now the firm can produce Q1 Q1 with average cost curve ATC1. Okay, in TC1. So if the firm produce Q1 with average cost curve ATC0, its average cost would be ATC0 times Q1. Okay, so by adjusting the fixed factor in a way that optimize the scale of operation, so the economies in production can produce a Q1 unit of output at a lower average cost. As a lower average cost. That means ATC1 times Q1. So notice that the curve labeled ATC1 is itself a short run average cost curve based on the new level of fixed cost and have been selected to minimize the cost of producing Q1. So if the firm wishes to further expand output, let's say as Q2, so it would follow curve ATC1 in the short run to ATC1 times Q2. So until it again change its fixed factor to incur lower average cost of producing Q2 unit of output, namely as ATC2 times Q2. Okay. So the long run average cost curve denoted LRAC. This one, okay. LRAC. Okay. In figure 513, define the minimum average cost of producing alternative level of output. So allowing for optimal selection of all variable of production, both fixed and variable factors. So the long run average cost curve is the lower envelope of all the short run average cost curves. So this means that the long run average cost curve lies below every point in the short run average cost curve, except that it equals each short run average cost curve at the points where the short run curve uses fixed factors optimally. Okay. In essence, we may think of each short run average cost curve in figure 513 as the average cost of producing in a plan of fixed cost. So different short run average cost curve are associated with different plant sizes. Okay. In the long run, the firm manager is free to choose the optimal plant size for producing the desired level of output, and this determine the long run average cost of producing that output level. Okay. So in multi product cost function, you can see cost of jointly producing two output. Okay, generally function form like this. So notice that the long run average cost curve in is a U shape. You can see from slide here. Okay, it's a U shape. Okay. Okay, long run average cost as a U shape, like this. So this is the explanation for the long run average cost. So this implies that initially an expansion of output allows the firm to produce a lower long run average cost. That means if you run for long run, it can be potential for firm to produce at a lower long run average cost, as is shown for output between 0 to Q 0 or Q1 or Q2. This condition is known as economies of scale. This is condition where we can see as economies of scale. Okay. So when there are economies of scale, increasing the size of operation decrease the minimum average cost. Okay. So after a point such as Q certain quantity, certain output as such as certain output, further increases in output lead to increase in average cost. So this condition is known as a diseconomies of scale. Okay. So economies of scale again exists whenever long run average cost decline. Decline. So you can see from the U shape here. Okay. From this is the economies of scale, and when it increase the average cost, long run average cost, that means this is the area of this economies of scale. So the marginal cost of producing good 1 decline as more of good 2 is produced. That's complementary cost complementary. Okay. For example here, okay, cow hides and sticks. So this is a quadratic multi-product function, cost function. Okay, cost complementary. Okay, and then economy of scope. That means joint production is cheaper. Okay, joint production is cheaper. Because until now our analysis of production process has focused on situation where the firm produce a single output. So there are also numerous examples of firm that produce multiple output. So this is what we can see, the multi product cost function. Okay. Toyota, for example, produce cars, truck, and SUV, and many varieties of each. So they'll produce many different type of from computers and printers. While our analysis for the case of a firm that's produce a single output also apply to a multi-product firm. So the latter raises some additional issues. So this section will highlight this concept, okay, what we call as a multi product cost function. Okay, this is a numerical example. Okay, let's say cost for quantity 1 and quantity 2 equal to 90. Okay, minus 2 Q1 Q2, okay, plus Q1 2 plus Q2 2. So cost complementary, yes, since A equal minus 2, so that means lower than 0. So marginal cost for quantity 1 and quantity 2 equal to minus 2 quantity 2 plus 2 quantity 1. Okay, so economies of scope, yes, since 90 is bigger than, okay, minus 2 quantity 1 and quantity 2. So in conclusion, you can see to maximize the profit or minimize cost, manager must use input such that the value of marginal of each input reflect price the firm must pay to employ the input. An optimal mix of input is achieved when the MRTS KL equal to wage divided by R. And cost function are the foundation for helping to determine profit maximizing behavior in future chapter. Okay. So in this chapter, actually we introduce the production and cost function, which summarize important information about converting input into output sold by a firm. For firm that use several input to produce output, isocost and isoquant provide a convenient way to determine the optimal input mix. So we broke down the cost function into average total cost, average fixed cost, average variable cost, and marginal cost. So this concept help build a foundation for understanding the profit maximizing input and output decision that will be covered in greater detail in later chapter. So given a desired level of output, isoquant and isocost to provide the information needed to determine the cost minimizing level of input. So the cost minimizing level of input is determined by the point at which the ratio of input prices equal the ratio of marginal product for the various input. Okay, finally we show how economies of scale, economies of scope, cost complementaries influence the level and mix of output produced by a single and multi-product firm. Okay. Alright, and then in the next chapter we will look at the acquisition of input. We will see how manager can use spot, a market, a contract, or vertical integration to efficiently obtain the input needed to produce their desired mix of input. Okay, so until now, so that's all for chapter 5. Yeah, so we will continue our next chapter after this. So have a nice day. Thank you very much.